All right, good. We're doing well, and we're very excited. Nick Bosa is a player who we have long coveted and grown in our appreciation. Probably every time we watch him, it gets better, and we're very pleased to have him part of our organization. I think he adds to a very talented group. On the defensive line is something that Kyle and I had as a priority when we got here. Two of the first things we talked about is finding our quarterback and finding the guys to knock him down. And I think both in quality and quantity, we've improved drastically in that respect. And that's just a start. It gives us a chance. Now we got to go deliver there. And I think Nick really helps us in our ability to do that. So with that, I'll open up for questions.
Where did you focus most on when you were studying Nick? What area did you dive most into?
Cam, I think the one thing, when you're watching players, certain things jump out right away. One thing we talked a lot with D, that first step. Nick has a tremendous first step. He gains a ton of ground. It's incredibly quick. But I think a mix of speed and power, and then he's an absolute technician with his hands. Kyle jokes a lot. It looks like he's been, since 3 years old, been doing pass rush moves with his family, and he's so proficient with it. Greg Schiano, down at a visit, he was their D coordinator this year, and I think he captured what my eyes were seeing and our eyes were seeing better than anyone when he said in all his years of coaching, he's never had a player whose hand and feet are married together better than Nick Bosa. And so that's what we see. And so he's not only incredibly talented, powerful, fast, but he's very efficient in the way he plays. And you put that together and you think you have a pretty special package.
Paul, do you see him as a three-down player already, right off the bat, or maybe just a pass rusher to start?
No, I see him as a three-down player. He's got to come in and do it, but he plays the run well. His best strength is rushing the passer, but no, he can play all three downs and can play in all situations.
Kyle, you mentioned at the owners' meetings just the way Alden Smith and Justice Smith complement each other. I'm not asking you to compare them, but do you see him and D complementing each other well, and if so, what way?
I do. We've had a number of good D linemen here since we've been here, and there were some before. And I think it always gets confusing to people on how to use them and where to use them best. And I think this makes it a lot easier. We've had some guys with some versatility, but you always want to put guys in the spot that they're kind of born to do. And we have guys like Armstead and Solly who can rush outside and are really good at playing the run outside, but they're the best at rushing the passer from the inside. Just like Buckner is and stuff. And now we got two guys in particular who excel in rushing from the edge, and that's Steve Ford and it's Bosa. So it allows you to use the versatility a little bit better and put guys truly where they're at their best.
How long ago did you guys know that Murray went #1, you take Bosa?
That's a good question, Eric. I think the evolution of the process, two players really, in our mind, separated themselves from the pack, and it was Bosa and it was Quinnen Williams, and those were the players. And I think ultimately we had those guys ranked extremely evenly. Then you kind of look at where your team has the biggest need. And while we would have been very happy with the former, with Quinnen, Nick was just, we felt like that was a piece that we still could use, another edge guy. We had D on one end, and now we have that other end, and we can come at people in waves. And so when that happened, that final decision, it just kind of kept getting stronger and stronger. But I'd say for weeks we've solidified on this pick.
Considering that he plays in such a similar defense to yours, did you guys watch Joey Bosa, a lot of tape of Joey Bosa, and evaluating Nick?
Yeah, everyone's so keen to try to make a comparison between them. I think we just look at really good D linemen, and we looked at Nick and all his strengths, and everybody wants to do comparisons: who's taller, who's faster, who's stronger. His brother's a very good player, but Nick's very prideful about being his own person too. And while they're very close, they're also very competitive. And so that's another thing we loved. The more we got to learn about Nick, and So we're very enthused, as you can tell, to bring in a real quality player who we think is going to help us.
John, you didn't want to elaborate much about this on Monday, but you said he was a great teammate. Can you speak to what in your mind makes him a good teammate?
Yeah, I think the most indelible memory throughout this process with him, myself and Adam Peters went down on a day to watch Ohio State. They've got a ton of prospects, and we were at Rose Bowl practice. It was actually at the StubHub Center. They were practicing there, and it was very fortuitous for us because Nick Bosa decided to show up at practice, and he was away from his team all year getting healthy, and this guy shows up in sunglasses and shorts, and organically we watched this happen. The entire practice stopped, and every player, every coach, every student manager on that team stopped and embraced Nick Bosa, and that spoke to me that here they are with Urban Meyer, who's a pretty intense coach, and he just let it happen because it just happened very organically. And to watch those teammates, I think in a situation where they could have had some animosity for a guy who made a decision to leave his team to get ready for his next step in his career and in his professional career. Instead, they all were appreciative of a guy who they had a ton of respect for. And we did a lot of talking to coaches. We did a lot of talking to Nick's teammates. And, what they'll tell you is he's one of the most beloved players that's ever been through there to the rest of his teammates, to the coaches and all that. And that spoke volumes to us.
Well, obviously we all know about the social media posts. As the guy who's working that locker room, how do you evaluate that? How did you evaluate how he might fit in with your player?
Just being around him. I mean, that's the most important thing for me. It's always great when you hear that his teammate liked him, and what John witnessed is a very good story. We interviewed a number of people at Ohio State at the draft, and you're always going to ask them what do they think of their teammates and stuff, and hear all those guys actually speak about Nick the way they did was very encouraging. But I'm always going to go off my own experience with the person, and I was very happy with the guy I got to spend some time with. We got to go to dinner with him, spend a lot with. We always had the interview. You never get the full book when you hang out with someone just a couple times like that, but you spend a lot of time talking to people. Our scouts have been looking at him for probably not since high school, but, the 3.5 years he's been in college. So feel great about what I've heard, and I feel great about what I've seen. And I think our players will be very excited to meet him and really love him as a person.
There was a report you guys are looking into trading Solomon Thomas. Is that accurate, and if so, where does that stand?
Yeah, it's not accurate. We usually don't respond to every one of these, rumors that happens in today's world. I had Solly up in my office today, and we just talked exactly where he is, and he's a big part of our team right now that we're extremely excited about moving forward with him. And that's where we're at with Solly, and Kyle just mentioned, you put this puzzle together, and we want to be a group that stays fresh. That can close out halves, can close out third downs, can close out games, and I think our players last longer if there's a lot of them, and we feel like we, as I mentioned, have a lot of quality players, and Solly's a big part of that. So we're excited about Solly.
Obviously, your expectation is he's going to be playing for the Niners in 2019.
Absolutely.
Did you get much action in terms of calls on the number 2 pick? And if so, what did you consider? What went into that?
No, it was, we had conversations going into the draft, and there were a lot of teams that said, hey, depending on how this thing breaks, we'd like to be able to give you a call. I think there was one call that happened, but it wasn't of interest. We were pretty locked in on what we were going to do, and we're always going to listen, but nothing really materialized.
Kyle, games aren't won on paper, but do you allow yourself to look forward to what you've got on the defensive line just with all that talent?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, just as a coach, it's the hardest thing to handle is going against a tough D-line, and that's been our goal since we got here, to try to build it that way. We know we had some good players to start with. We've added some players since we got here, and you always try to take the best guys available. And we've had a lot of guys that are good players that are very similar, and the 2 guys that we've added to the D-line this year are kind of the 2 things that we're missing. So we needed to get better in that area, and I think what we've already had will make those guys much better. So I think we've got a chance to be difference makers on the defensive line, and that'll add to our linebackers, that'll add to our secondary, and make our whole team better.
Is he healthy right now? I mean, could he go right into a mini camp or working out?
Yes, this thing, I guess we're the beneficiary of him taking the year, and, he's healthy, he's ready to go. We'll have a rookie mini camp this coming weekend, and he'll be ready to roll.
John, but after we talked to you Monday, there was a report a social media thing about Bosa. It was a report that he liked a friend's Instagram post from 2014 when he was in high school, and those posts had hashtags that were racist and homophobic. Were you guys aware of that, and that, if so, what was your reaction to that?
We were not aware of that particular post. We had, as we do with all of our prospects, we do background checks and look at their social media. That's one part of it. We learned of that. That's not something that we like. But I think it long time ago, and I think we choose to think more about what we've heard from people as to who the person really is, and I think Nick will speak to you all, and I think that we're going to give him a fresh start, and we'd hope that everybody would.
Yeah, I feel the same, seeing something like that, we didn't know, and then you see it, and that is something, you don't want to see stuff like that. Then to see when it was from when he was 16, and for people to explain to me what liking something means and how you do that, I still don't totally know. I don't have Instagram or anything. So I think, it's not right, but it's also not the person that we've been around, and it's not the person that we believe he is, and it's not the person that we've been told he is by a lot of people that we do trust. So I think we're pretty confident that he'll get here and show everyone else that's the same thing.
Did you have a direct conversation with him about any of this specifically? Maybe not that one post, but this issue?
No, I didn't. Not this issue. I didn't feel the need to ever. We felt very good about the person, and I know it's come out in the last couple of days, but we still feel very good about it.
Does his addition shift what you guys foresee for Eric Armstead, maybe more inside work for him?
Well, I think Armstead is the same situation as Solly, and they're very similar. They play extremely well in the running game on the edge. They can set those edges great. Tight ends and tackles struggle with them, and they still are effective rushing the quarterback. But both of those guys, if you can put them in the most ideal spot for them possible, and when you know the quarterback's throwing 3rd and 10, 2-minute, whatever it is, you'd rather put them inside, which is also where Buck would always rather be. So to have 3 guys in there, so you could have a 3-man rotation at 2 positions, to where you have guys on the outside. It's sometimes hard to put Solly and Armstead inside when they're better than the guys on the outside. So that's kind of been the tough thing for us over these couple of years. And the 2 things that we've done, one in free agency and one today, makes that a lot easier, and something that just as a coaching staff, and I know our players will be extremely excited about.
You've talked a lot about improving the defensive front, but the secondary also struggled pretty significantly last year. Do you see this as really helping the secondary and maybe just by the quarterback having to deal with pressure?
A pass rush hides a lot of things, just like a quarterback can hide a lot of things, and that's where it all starts. And if you don't have that pass rush, I don't care what corners you go get. No one can cover forever, and you can have guys who can get a lot of interceptions, but if that quarterback has forever to throw, it really doesn't matter. So I think we've improved at linebacker, which will help our secondary. Just it makes those zones harder to throw over, makes you play less man-to-man. And when you have a pass rush that can get there with 4, you can play less man-to-man, have linebackers help you out in coverage, and you can defend the deep ball better.
Couple more?
What will your approach be with Robbie Gould, who wants a trade?
Yeah, we placed the franchise tag on him. Robbie's not here with us. These are voluntary workouts right now. As I said the other day, Robbie's a guy who we respect in a big way for the way he's performed for us, for the teammate he's been, and we're hopeful that we can figure something out to keep him here for a long time. Robbie had his comments. We'll choose to deal directly with Robbie, not through the media in terms of the negotiations and all. But we're hopeful we can find some resolution on this thing, and in the interim, we know Robbie will be ready to play.
Yeah, we love having Robbie here. We understand that he doesn't want to live here long term, and he's made that clear to us, and we get that. And but we do have a franchise tag, and he's that good of a kicker that he's worth franchising. So fortunately, we know we're not going to have him long term here. I think that's been pretty clear. No hard feelings about that. I do understand his reasons, but pretty excited to have a good kicker this year.
Will you trade him?
No.
you expect to
Last one?
Do you expect to do any more work tonight? Think you're going to stay put? Or are you just keeping options open?
Well, the longer we're down here in Prague, probably, we gotta get up there before he trades our whole team away.
We don't have enough picks to be making a lot of trades, so I think we're gonna be
It's fun and be
sticking with
nice,
our
but
picks.
you
yeah.
never know.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right, guys, thanks.